Hey everybody, this is Robert Jackson, and thank you for tuning in to Station Square. And today we have a very special guest with me today, and just in time for the release of season 6 of The Dragon Prince, which they are also a part of. And you might have also heard their work on numerous different projects. They even had a podcast of their own before, which we'll also get into in a little bit. But ladies and gentlemen, we have Boone Williams in the corner. This has been yet another one that has been in the works for, I don't want to say in the works, but it's something that has just kind of been, we want to wait until the right time just to talk about, this because this is commemorating the release of the newest season of Dragon Prince, and also, interestingly enough, in the middle of strikes again. So thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining me today, and yeah, super excited to have you here. Oh my gosh, it's such an honor.
Wow, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I know we've been talking about this for like a year since last Comic-Con. Crazy.
Well, yeah. Has it really been that long? Oh my
I think
God.
so, pretty much. Yeah.
Oh man. This is
Wild.
just what happened. Yeah, I'm just like, wah. My brain is just kind of like, man, pudding when it comes to memory and just how long we've been actually talking. So that is pretty crazy to me. So thank you so much. Thanks for being patient. Like, I know it's definitely now it's starting to pay off now. So yay.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you for your patience. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited.
Yeah, right on. So I guess with all of that said, I'm, it's today is a nice hot summer day as it usually is. So
It is.
how have you been doing? Like just that's a little bit of an icebreaker. What you've been up to besides, just waiting for this thing to come out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Dragon Prince has definitely been at the forefront of my mind for the last few months with season 6 coming out as soon as the trailers released and people got to have a sneak peek at Astrid. I've just been promoting it like crazy. I've been excited for like it's been a long we recorded quite a while ago. Typically in animation you're recording a series 1 to 2 years before it actually sees the light of day. So it's like this giant secret that you just want to tell everyone. You got to be professional and patient. So I've been enthusiastically on Twitter and enjoying all of the hype that's been building around. And then Comic-Con weekend was super eventful, super exhausting, super fun. My parents visited. They were in town for that weekend. So that was really, really nice. I got to bring them along. I'll shout out the producers of the show for getting guest passes and having them on board too. It was really amazing. And yeah, and then we just got to spend some time together in LA, which was lovely. And now they're off at a wedding and I am here in my apartment.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, because I was about to say you're in your apartment right now in LA?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice. Yeah, because I'm just sitting here, it's a nice home out in the LA Orange County area, so, and I just so happen to be in an area where it's just always constantly just in the 90s and
Oh
close to
yeah.
100s. Yeah, 80s and 90s. Yeah. But I've gotten pretty used to this weather. Like I've been over here for years now, so
It's
yeah,
hot.
but
Yeah.
it is yeah, during a heat wave, so what can you do about it?
What can you do?
Well, yeah, congrats on everything that you've just mentioned to me so far, because yeah, with a lot of the stuff that you've got going on, because I know you mentioned a wedding, and then there was San Diego Comic-Con, which I sadly missed this year, but I always keep saying next year. Always
It's a
next year,
lot. It's
man.
hard to, Sandy,
Yeah.
it's a big giant commitment.
Yeah. That's like something that you gotta prep up like I mean, they start selling the tickets like what, November? So yeah, like months of preparation just for
Yeah,
just even for a trip, just for one day. Like that is insane.
it's wild. It's wild. I know. I think it's funny that it's going on during the Olympics because it's like it's its own
The
Olympics.
Olympics too. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Mm.
geek culture Olympics of like its own pop culture craziness. I love it.
Yeah, because in between all the Olympics, the all the politics and yeah, just every
Lot.
and of course now we have to protect our voices against AI, so it's just
Oh yeah.
this has been a quite eventful summer, for better or worse,
Yeah, there's a lot.
I'm not complaining. Yeah, I'm not complaining.
No, no, it's yeah, a lot of, there's some stressors, but still a lot of excitement and a lot of positivity to be found through the chaos.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess we might as well just get to I guess the conversation, which is kind of usually like, we just kind of ramble on different stuff. So that's kind of what this podcast is for.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I guess with you, I think I kind of might have know a little bit about your background, but um, what has been something that has kind of got you like, oh, okay, so when did this whole acting bug, when did it bite you, and when did you decide that like, oh, okay, I can definitely do this?
It's a great
So,
question.
yeah, your beginnings.
That's yeah, I kind of as a kid went back and forth about what I might actually do as an adult to make a living. My dad is an actor. He's been acting professionally for years and years, so I grew up around it, but he never really wanted me to get into the business because he knows how hard it is to make a living doing that. And, he wanted to protect me from the emotional highs and lows of, it's a lie putting yourself out there, and rejection is a huge part of it. And so from his perspective, I can understand not wanting your kid to have to go through that. And I think he definitely hoped early on that I would choose a different path that would be a little more stable. But acting, artistry, there's certain things, performance that you just when it bites you, like you say, you can't really do anything about it. It's just in you. So I started doing like there were these summer camps when I was a little kid in my tiny hometown. They were like biblical musicals, and I'm not particularly religious, but it was just an opportunity to get on stage. And I did that a few years, and I made my own little movies with my dad's video camera that I put my brothers in. I started wanting to make movies. I think even before I wanted to be an actor, I was like, I just wanted to make movies, make shows, something like that. I like the idea of writing, directing, just creating and telling stories. And that kind of evolved over time into wanting to be an actor. And I would say that there was sort of like it was always kind of a vague idea in my head. I just loved performing. I was always that kid who wanted to dance in front of everybody and sing and dress up and do fun attention-seeking things like that. Um, and then I remember when I was 12. I was super into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I still am. I love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Big part of my childhood. Great, great franchise. And the new series had come out on Nickelodeon, the 2012 one, and just kind of randomly stumbled upon cast interviews of that show. And I discovered that Rob Paulsen, who plays Donatello in that iteration, was also the original voice of Raphael in the 1987 cartoon. And that kind of broke my brain. And I fell down this giant rabbit hole of Turtles interviews, which then led me to other voice actor interviews. So I kind of from him I started watching interviews with people like Billy West and Maurice LaMarche and Cree Summer and Tara Strong and like all these people. And like I said, I was probably around 12, and I just kind of had this moment where I was like, this is it. This is the marriage of everything I love. I love to sing. I love to express myself through my voice. I love to act. I love to tell stories. I love cartoons. I love the whimsy of it all. There's like it's a beautiful form of performance and artistry that I just absolutely became enamored with. And from that point on, I knew I wanted to do cartoons for a living. And I've done other stuff too. Like it's not solely been about cartoons on camera, stage, whatever. Acting is acting, and I love it to bits. But that was what really launched me into motion, I would say.
Yeah, that is so cool. And and like we were just talking about before, you just went to SDCC not too long ago, and then you also did quite a few stuff this month that you just mentioned to me, just doing a lot of this big stuff, and just all kind of goes back to when you were a kid, like you were just kind of like that play pretend, type of whimsical attention seek. I just really
Yep.
love how you
Yep.
just mentioned it because yeah, I was also like that kid that was just kind of like, okay, well, I'm just kind of introverted, shy, didn't really. I mean, like being born into it because I was a kid and you're just kind of like getting used to your surroundings and stuff. Like your brain just kind of processes of what is happening and you just don't know what you wanted to do. So you just randomly decided one day of like, oh, maybe I'll just do like a play or I'll just do like a little show or just do video game let's plays, which I was almost considering about. I mean, I could still probably do it. Like, there's Twitch, and there's so
Yeah.
many actors that just make their. I mean, there's a lot that do kind of technically make their income on Twitch, but well, who knows? You never know. But
Really.
yeah, like I was seriously considering about being like what's going on, guys? This is Mystic back once again with another playthrough of Raid Shadow Legends. Like, I was gonna be that dude, but then I just found VO like. I think my story is kind of similar to yours, come to think of it, because I was a kid and I literally shared this story with a couple of friends of mine just a few days ago where I loved animation and then I would watch episodes of SpongeBob or Animaniacs and I would just see Andrea Romano's name as casting and voice director and I'm like, Andrea Romano, what else has she done? Wait, she did Avatar, Teen Titans, Batman, the animated Tiny Toons. Wow. Okay. I better check. I better go look up what they're doing. Yeah, I better
Yeah.
get on this. So this
Yeah.
seems like so fun. And then that's how I watched interviews with Rob Paulson, Jazz, Trez, Maurice LaMarche, and just a lot of the Animaniacs cast. And I'm just like, wow, this is kind of the stuff that I've been doing since because I was the type of kid that would just be like, oh, like I would just mute the TV and then I would just kind of duh sort of they kind of consider it as like dubbing over
Oh
footage
yeah.
the TV
Oh yeah.
screen, yeah, and then I would just read the lines in different characters and that was kind of what got me. It's just kind of like this love of VO just never really left me since I was a kid. So and the funny thing is I wanted to get into animation, like be an animator, but I am contributing. You are technically contributing to animation if you're
Oh
voicing a
yeah.
character and just bringing. I mean, I'm all for like collaborations and just really working with the producers, the directors, the writers, just help have this character being brought to life, essentially. So that's my
Absolutely.
story.
Yeah, that's great. That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, they need a voice to animate to. So it's a
Yeah.
very, very collaborative industry, which is part of the reason I love it so much. Like doing the Dragon Prince, I've gotten to meet so many people and learn about different parts of the industry and different jobs that I would have been pretty ignorant to otherwise. And I absolutely love it.
Yeah. And in the process of, learning about the business, because you mentioned because I know Rob also did interviews like on his Talking Tunes podcast. Highly recommend, by the way.
Yeah, it's
And
great.
yeah, it's a great one. But yeah, you mentioned just learning, soaking up all of this information like a sponge. So was there something along the way that you kind of was like, or actually, what were some of the biggest ones that you had to learn along the way when it comes to, knowing the business? There's something that you definitely know now, but what is something that you kind of didn't really know before that you wish you've learned a lot sooner?
Ooh, oh, you pointed something out great by just by calling it a business, and that was something that my dad instilled in me really early on, which is I think one of the, and I should also say for people who heard me earlier talking about my dad saying he didn't want me to be an actor, he is one of my biggest supporters now, and he helped me get my first agent, just so no
Yeah.
one has a negative image of me.
Yeah.
But
My
he's
family was kind of the same when I told them, yeah, I kind of want to do this. And they're like, what? But
yeah,
they're just like, oh, yeah, no. They just let me just holler it up behind a microphone.
yeah, oh yeah, no, it's just a
Even if I
protective
have to be
thing.
told at night, like, you got to be quiet because people are sleeping. And I'm just like, nah.
Sleep a different time. Come on, I'm making voices. Yeah.
Yeah, come
Uh
on. I'm doing my work here
yeah,
at
yeah,
night and I don't have any other choice. So too bad.
yeah, no,
Just
totally.
kidding. I love my family, but yeah, sometimes it can be working around different scheduling can be, you know, fine.
Tricky.
But right now it can be I can literally just do it all day. So
That's
I don't
great.
have to worry about any neighbors or anything.
That's a
Which
blessing. That's a
Yeah, that
blessing.
seems to be a thing that it's like, oh my gosh, I have to do like this big scream, and then the neighbor just kind of heard me. They have to call the police and being like, "Is everything okay? What's wrong? What's up? What's up? What's up?
Yeah.
Are you murdering somebody?" It happens. Trust me.
Um,
I don't have to deal with any of that. But continue.
it's a little, it's, I know, it's so silly.
Yeah,
But yeah, but that was something my dad instilled in me very early on about it being a business and to treat it as such
yeah.
because, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
artistry is key and but it isn't everything. And you need to be very professional from the get-go. And I think that because of my dad's wisdom, I handled things pretty well overall, but I still think I could go back and have started off on this adventure with a little bit more of that attitude. Um, because I would say this to anyone who's new in the industry or is looking to get into it, always present yourself as more experienced than you actually are. Because it doesn't matter. If you've never actually worked, but you're an actor, call yourself an actor. You know, you don't need to call yourself an aspiring. You don't need to say I want to be or I hope to be or you know, don't go into something and say, "Oh, I'm so green. I'm so green. I don't know what I'm doing." It's okay if you are green and don't know what you're doing. Feel green and I don't know what I'm doing all the time and everything in life. We're all figuring everything out. But I think um I think in the earlier days I was a little bit like that and it came from a good place, but there's sort of this worship of people who you think are like, oh, this is unattainable. I can never do that. And I would just want to tell younger me, um, just go into this with the assumption that you can do what your heroes want to do. It's not easy. They're your heroes for a reason, and they've worked really, really hard and possess a tremendous amount of talent. But you have to understand within yourself that you have that potential too. If you subconsciously are giving yourself the message that I am not that, like that's a separate entity above me that a bar to reach for maybe. Um, you have to know that the bar is actually reachable. You know, it's not some mystical, elusive fantasy. It really can be your reality. Like just as if you were to pursue a job as a physician or a dentist or a lawyer or a therapist or whatever. These are all professions that require a tremendous amount of study and time and patience and dedication and care, but they're all completely attainable. So I think I would just give little me even more encouragement, honestly.
Yeah. So with your dad being an actor, he was kind of like your, I guess your biggest cheerleader, and he was kind of like the one that kind of was sort of the building, sort of guidance when it comes to you pursuing your own career. So I guess if you were to say something, I don't know, if you wanted to give your compliments to your dad, what would be like something that you wanted to say just to give your thanks to him for, getting you, I guess, your start and
Oh yeah.
stuff.
First of all, thank him for his patience because
Yeah.
you know, there are days when he's been my reader for those who aren't familiar with that term, reader, just like if you're doing an audition on camera, you have someone who's helping
Oh
you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you're doing a self-tape, there's someone who's
Hmm.
behind the camera and reading the other character's lines to play off of you, so you have something to go off of. We don't do that in voiceover. You just got to imagine a reader, but on camera, that's what you do. He's been that for every audition I've ever had. And you know, sometimes I am grumpy or not don't have the energy for the audition or I'm forgetting my lines. And so he's been very, very patient with me and helped me a lot and gotten me to places where I didn't think I could be. But it's interesting because as a kid, I think he really encouraged me to try and look at other options in terms of making a living. You know, he never wanted me to abandon doing what brought me joy, but I think that maybe earlier on his dream for me would be to be like do the acting performance stuff for fun, but then, you know, go to school, get a degree and do something that's going to make sure you can pay your bills for the rest of your life. But after a while, it became clear to him that like this was the path I was going on. I was dedicating all my time to acting. And once he really got that and saw the dedication I had in it and that I had practiced and I had developed some skill. He really took me under his wing in a huge way, and he reached out to his agent for me, who's now my agent and has been for the last 4 years. And I love her a lot, and she got me the audition for the Dragon Prince. So, big thanks to my dad. I would not be doing this interview if it weren't for him. That was what started everything, and it's snowballed into a lot of other wonderful stuff, and who knows what'll come next. So, big thank you. Big thank you to Papa Williams.
Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also thank you, Mama Jackson, for allowing me to do this in the first place, for being the inspiration of me just doing stuff like that. Like literally, like this is just kind of all like, I mean, I do a podcast where it's just kind of like one of those spur of the moment of like, you know, I kind of like this. I kind of wanted to know more about the people that have been doing this, because it's just something that is just really fun and I could, um, just really learn from those that are actually working in the business and just, talk with friends about, a lot of this stuff because we can talk about, shows or movies or games, like, just some of the media and all that stuff. But I just really wanted to know more from the people that are, experienced and they have been doing this for a long time and just wanted to mainly do this because I know there's people that are just still starting VO even this year. So it's just kind of like a really good way of just keeping people informed and updated on what's been going on. And especially with the rise of so many streaming services and so much of content that we are just now watching and I guess consuming, consume. But it's just one of those things where you want to be informed and just stay on top of everything that goes on. But I mean, I'm just saying that because not even we know everything of what's going on because something can just change on a dime just like that.
Yeah.
Because that's how unpredictable this business can be, man. It
Oh,
really does.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a good lesson and thank you for doing this podcast. I think it's so wonderful, and that's a good lesson
Yeah.
for people to hear as well, because it does change drastically. And contracts, why that's why there are strikes and why there are contract negotiations happening all the time, because
Yeah.
technology evolves and then we have to evolve with it, and it's just an ever-changing business. It requires a lot of ability to adapt and adjust to change quickly.
Yeah. That's just pretty much what it is. I mean, it's just you ask somebody like, "Oh, what has been some of the biggest like, noticeable changes that you've," and it just depends from person to person. Like, no one has like a same answer every time because we all kind of have like different experiences. We all are kind of like, we have our own inputs on stuff and what is kind of like there's really no right way of getting started into the industry. And I really do believe that with all of us we are, I think it was Crispin Freeman that said it best, where we become the stories that we tell. I might be getting it mixed up, but that's kind of
Sounds
the saying that
accurate.
kind of stuff. Yeah, it sounds pretty much accurate. Oh yeah, his podcast also just highly recommend
Excellent.
watching.
Yeah, another great
Excellent,
one.
man. Yeah, and there's so many resources out there like D. Bradley Baker, Yuri and Terrace, but there's so much that you could just get started when it comes to doing online stuff and then gradually work your way up because that's how so many of us really got our, I don't want to really say big breaks, but it's more like we just started getting our names out there. We kept auditioning, and it was the persistence and the drive that just kept us moving forward, even when times are tough.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for saying that, because so many people, and I was definitely guilty of this too when I was just starting and didn't know how to start, is that a lot of people come in and just say, well, how do I get to work? What do I go? How do I get jobs? And
Mm.
it doesn't work like that in this industry. It's not, you don't just like apply for a position and then, here's my resume and you'll get it. But most of the resources you've mentioned, those two podcasts, and there's a few others too that are they're
There's a
completely
lot,
free.
man.
There's a lot, and they're free. So
Even me,
it's you
guilty
do
as
there is
charged.
There
Yeah.
is no right way, like you said, to get into this industry. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. If you listen to those podcasts with all these different people who are working all the time now, they all had a unique start. And it's really interesting to hear about that. So if you want to get started in this, if you are a young actor, a new actor, like take all of that in, take advantage of what's out there and just let yourself become inspired and have fun with the journey because it's kind of a magical place to be in when you don't have any professional responsibility yet. You're just a student and you're just soaking in all of this knowledge and this wonder and curiosity and just play. It's so fun.
Yeah. Even Jim Cummings has a podcast. And
Yeah, he
his
does.
is just very recent too. I think he started like a year or two ago, but yeah,
Yeah,
even
something like
his is
that.
kind of like taking off. Yeah, so I just always say to people like, hey, if there's ever a time where you start your own podcast, it's never too late. That's what I always say to folks all the time that want to do this. Because I often hear people being like, oh no, I think I'm kind of a little too young or too old. I wish I kind of started that. No, the perfect time to start is literally today, right
Totally.
now. Yeah,
Totally.
it takes a lot of hard work and persistence, but hey, it's not impossible. I mean, it might seem impossible, but it's really not. You just kind of got to learn like the do's and don'ts of everything. I mean, it's all a learning curve. Like none of us are going to be perfect when we start out. I mean,
No,
take it from us. Yeah.
no. I know. If you only did things that you would be perfect at from the get-go, you probably wouldn't do anything. Got to
It's
start
it.
somewhere.
But where's the fun if you don't get to the hard stuff? The
Exactly.
adulting. Man. But anyways, speaking of the podcasts though, like you also did your own for some time?
I
Yeah,
did a
tell
little
us a little
bit.
bit about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I've been thinking about bringing that back.
Yeah.
I don't know, kind of the momentum just I don't know, I'm weird. Like I've done all I start things and then I kind of fizzle out and then I bring it back and I had some really
Mm,
wonderful guests on there that I was super excited to have and
I've
I
seen them. Yeah.
yeah, thank you for watching. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I know I've talked with a few other people who I know would do it. I don't know, just it's just all timing, but certainly if there's interest and people like those, I would be very open to doing those again.
Yeah. Because you've had on great guests like I think you've had Billy West on
I
once,
did,
JB
yeah.
Carliak, and somebody that I've actually had on my show, Bob Bergen.
Oh yeah, he's
So it
great.
was, yeah, dude, he is like, when it comes to, if you want to pick somebody's brain when it comes to voiceover, he is definitely your guy.
He's an
And
encyclopedia for sure.
oh no, yeah, and he definitely takes his craft very seriously, pro-union, and we were just, especially now with what's been happening, now we're just kind of all picking brains of like the union members, and we're just kind of like, oh, I wonder how this is gonna play out because this is because like I said, it can really affect your livelihood. So it's just really good to be involved in communities that offer you a lot of advice because even though a lot of this is still like kind of like, a work in progress because we're still kind of negotiating the deals and everything. So, if anybody wants to get in touch with Bob, like, website, and I also will recommend Steve Bloom's Facebook group,
Oh yeah,
where he's very active in, not Steve, Bob, but yeah, Bob will
yeah,
just come in and he will answer any questions you have and all for absolutely free. And watch his
it's
Instagram
amazing.
videos too. Just chef's
Yeah,
kiss.
it's pretty incredible. It's very rare to see someone. I mean, he's busy, he's working all the time, but he's still for free.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen him critique people's demos for free. He'll answer respond
Hmm.
to emails, he'll answer any question. Like he's very giving that way. So it's
Yeah.
again, there's just a lot. There are people out there and there are websites out there that are absolutely free where you can get so much invaluable information.
Yeah.
So I just take advantage, everyone. Take advantage.
Yeah. And I really like the interview that you did with also with JP because as for those that I think a lot of us know by now, but he runs the Queer Fox, the Academy
Hmm.
group.
Yeah.
So that is definitely, and this is something that I'm also gonna segue into in a little bit. But yeah, with JP's interview is kind of like, oh, and fun fact, he was Bob's student if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That is true.
Yeah, so with JP, it was kind of really interesting approaching us from, from his perspective on the business, and then going to Billy West, who I actually didn't find this out until recently that he was on the spectrum, so,
Mhm.
that is really awesome in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that is, getting to know more about a voice actor, with just how they were able, because it was so interesting on how he offered his perspective on, getting into the business and then he was going to get started and the struggles that he made along the way, especially with his background, which, yeah, it was a pretty rough background. I won't go into detail, but
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure those that have seen a lot of his stuff probably knows about a little about his childhood and everything. But yeah, it was just kind of, this is why I love getting to hear voice actors and just hearing a lot about their experiences, which is why I also do this because I wanted to ask questions specifically related to, because they often get asked like, "Oh, can you do the voice or do the roar and something something? How is it like getting to work on this show?" But I kind of wanted to ask like, okay, so when you did this, like, what are some of the mistakes or just I wanted to offer questions that are kind of like, that are super specific, and I'm not really like asking like the same old, which is something that I have to do for Bob Bergen because I wanted to ask questions specifically related to some of the work that he hasn't really discussed about, and the what is it like getting to, how do you negotiate, stuff like that, because he is
Right.
also a big union person. So I just wanted to ask questions that can be really beneficial for actors on their journey and not ask like, who's your favorite character, which nothing wrong with that, but it can kind of get really repetitive. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah. He
Yeah.
doesn't dig quite as deep. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So now getting to the next part that I wanted to ask, so I know I mentioned Queer Box Academy. So for you, when it comes to, I mean, how can I phrase this? And feel free to answer if whether or not you're comfortable with it. But when it comes to finding because I know that you're also very big in LGBT yourself. So what has been something that you've had to learn, like discovering yourself along the way when it comes to your maturity and growth as an actor and also as a human being,
Oh,
like with
wow.
your personal story?
What a great question.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. It's kind of been this weird full circle experience of, so I started I started medically transitioning when I was 16. That's when I went on hormone replacement therapy. And I didn't take my first actual acting class for another couple years. It was like about 2.5 years later when I was 18. And at that point, I'd had gender confirmation surgery. And so I was a much further point in my transition, and I had a lot more self-confidence, which I think helped me. I think if I had tried to enter the business earlier, it would have been a lot harder to go through that while socially transitioning and medically transitioning. So that I think it was pretty important to go through that major life event first,
Yeah.
and then it gave me this time and peace of mind to really explore myself within the context of acting. And I found acting, and specifically voiceover acting, not just voiceover, but really that especially has been such a profoundly helpful uh kind of therapy in terms of dealing with my own dysphoria. I've had a lot of issues with my voice throughout my life. If you dig deep, you might be able to find footage of me talking when I was like 15. My voice did
Yeah.
not sound like this. Testosterone fully lowered my voice. Like I went through male puberty, not completely. I think I cut it out about 3/4 of the way, halfway in, something like that, really. But I had to go through a lot. I spent years training my voice to sound the way it does now, and it's gone through a lot of different phases. And what I've found is that through acting training and doing animation, I have I've kind of found what is my natural voice through that. through going to the extremes, finding the highs and lows and everything in between through character work and storytelling has has subconsciously shown me kind of where my own authentic voice is within me. It's really interesting, and it's not something I would have anticipated going into acting training, but it just kind of has happened. And I want to shout out Charlie Adler, for those unfamiliar, just a tremendous actor, director, teacher. I don't know how much time we have, so I won't rattle off his whole IMDb, but look him up if you're unfamiliar. And he teaches on Zoom. I took his voiceover class 3 times because it was so helpful for me, and he gave me a confidence in myself as an actor and also just as a woman, as a person, walking on earth, to take power in my voice and all of the natural elements of it, and to find a superpower in that, rather than something that's historically given me a lot of pain. um and I think then doing the Dragon Prince, I booked that show like about a year after, almost exactly a year after I took Charlie's class the first time. And getting to play a transgender character who is largely categorized, in my opinion, by her confidence and her boldness. She's one of her defining traits, I would say, is her confidence in who she is, her certainty in who she is. She knows her role in the world, and who she is. That was so empowering for me, and I cannot thank Wonderstorm and everyone who's written for Astrid enough, because I think that her character is so important, so important. And she's not even the first of the transgender characters in that show. Big shout out to Ben Callens, who plays Terry, who I love, both the character and the actor. Fantastic person. It's that all culminated into where I am today, and it's given me a sense of myself that feels a lot more comfortable. I'm not going to lie and say like, oh, everything's perfect now. I still struggle with gender dysphoria on the regular. I still have mental health issues. We all do, I'm pretty sure, honestly. But it has this special place in my heart that I can kind of reach in and find that when I am in those darker places, and it inspires me to keep telling stories, and just going through life one step at a time.
It's so beautiful, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, man. It's just being vulnerable and being honest. This is what I'm here for.
I loved it. Thank you so much for that question.
Yeah, so we're going to continue this in the next part. And if you're enjoying this so far, be sure to like, subscribe, do that YouTube mumbo jumbo, and I'll see you all in the next part coming shortly.
All
Until
right.
then. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So last time we were just kind of discussing about so many different topics, but today we're gonna be, oh, this part really, we're gonna actually talk about Dragon Prince because we kind of mentioned it in passing. So yeah, like just share a little bit about your character and just getting to work on the show and just your overall experience of getting to be a part of such a phenomenal series.
Oh my gosh, where to begin? Yeah, well, if you haven't seen season 6 yet, get caught up, watch it, stream it on Netflix. All episodes are out right now. It's a tremendous show. I play a celestial elf named Astrid. She is transgender, as am I, which is such a thrill to play. She is one of a pair of twins, and they play a pretty big role in the season. I don't want to say too much for the people who haven't watched it. But they live at the Star Scraper, which is this really cool, I guess, building that's sort of constructed with magic, and they're part of this very unique ancient culture of elves that have been hinted at in season 5, and then we get to go into their world in season 6 and see more of them. And I get to be part of this really fun duo that helps Rayla and Callum out in their journey. And oh my gosh, did I love recording those episodes so much. So I have been a huge fan of the Dragon Prince since 2020. It's when I had heard about it vaguely, but I didn't really know much about it. And then I don't know, I think I saw like a YouTube review popped up or something like this looks really cool. And I had just dropped out of school. Actually, it was in between. I had done one semester of university and I was taking a semester off, which ended up just me being dropping out. And in between that and getting gender confirmation surgery. So I had this stretch of time where I was working like one shift a week as a barista at the time, but I didn't have much going on. And I just binged all of the Dragon Prince. I'm like, yeah, let's just watch a bunch of cartoons. And I fell so in love with it. And then fast forward a few months later that year, I took my first acting class, and the man who taught me, his name is Cole Howard. He teaches a class with On the Mic in Vancouver. It's also on Zoom, which is where I took it, but I know they do classes in Toronto if you live in Toronto, in Vancouver if you live in Vancouver, and they also do stuff online. So I would recommend On the Mic for people who want to do voiceover and learn more about it. It was a great class, and Cole, who taught me, plays Crow Lord on the series. So if you're familiar with the Dragon Prince, he's a recurring character on that show. And I found out about that through the class, and that was when I learned that it recorded in Vancouver, which is where I'm from originally. I was living there at the time. And from that moment onward, this is before I even had an agent, I just had this thought of, oh my gosh, this show records up here. If I get an agent, there's a chance I could get an audition for the show. I don't know. I think at that point we had just sort of found out that seasons 4 through 7 were gonna be coming out. I don't remember the exact timeline, but it was all new to me. And I had this total fantasy about someday being on the show. And then fast forward a couple years later, and the audition comes in, and I'm reading this character breakdown, transgender, and I'm reading about Astrid, and it felt so much like this vision I had had of what like this daydream, this complete daydream I had of being on the show and this character I might get to play. I had this, I don't know, expectation, hope, thought of possibility that they could include a transgender character because I knew the show was very progressive. I remember seeing Queen Anya for the first time, and she had two moms, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. And then there's so much inclusivity and diversity and representation in that show that I wasn't surprised at all they went that direction. And at this point, I didn't even know about Terry. So this was like the first transgender character I knew about. And yeah, Jesse and Akalia coached me on that audition. I got him the like last minute. He happened to be free, and he helped me out, and I found out a few days later that I booked the role, and I was just utterly thrilled. I mean, I can't tell you. I grew up watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it's still to this day it's my favorite series of all time. It's very special to me. It's just I watched it with my family as like a 5, 6 year old, so something like that it plays such an integral part of my childhood, and it's such a phenomenal show. I mean, at such a young age to have this incredibly thought out, mature storytelling that still is totally appropriate for children, but doesn't talk down to them at all. Like, what a blessing to have that at that age and to get to watch it with my family. So of course, the head writer on that show, for those who don't know, is Aaron Ehaws, who's co-creator of The Dragon Prince, and Jack DeSena, who played Sokka on that show, plays Callum on The Dragon Prince, and there's a little more overlap with other people. And so it was such a dream come true. I mean, I still can't believe it. And it was only my second acting job that I'd ever had. So it was like I'm still in disbelief talking about it right now. I got to meet Aaron that first day, and he was so welcoming, as was every single other person, every actor I met, every writer, our wonderful engineer Matt in Vancouver. Everyone I got to talk to was just so incredible, and made me feel like I had just been part of the team from the beginning, even though I was totally brand new and it was all very new. Um, and we did these 3 wonderful episodes in season 6, and this is not too common these days, but I actually got to record live in person with Ethan Farrell, who plays Cosmo, who's Astrid's twin brother. And when you get to play off of another actor, it really elevates the dynamic of those two characters so much. I don't think that the twins would have had the same fun energy that they did if we recorded separately. And I will also shout out Shelly Ann Taylor, the casting producer for the show, because she connected us before we even recorded. I think it was a day or two before our first session. We linked up and we had a little Zoom session, Ethan and I, where we got to hear each other's auditions and just get a feel for how I was approaching Astrid and how he was approaching Cosmo. And we read the script together and we just got to know each other a little bit. And so we were hanging out in between sessions outside of the studio, and we got to build this sort of fun sibling chemistry dynamic that was like so much fun. I really couldn't have asked for anything more. Like, it was just, the whole entire experience was so magical. And then, it could have been such a simple one and done thing, and I would have been so grateful for that. But to now still be talking about it, and I've now gone to 3 different conventions because of Wonderstorm. And this is my second time being on a panel. I really, I can't believe it. And I have to thank all the executive producers, and everyone who's just included me in this wonderful ride. It's so surreal, and I'm looking forward to wherever it may go next.
Yeah. And just getting to be on the Dragon Prince with Astrid, that was kind of like the big, your big moment where you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, I I can actually do this. And it's kind of like, and you said that this was a transgender character, and that's
Hmm.
kind of something that just feels so authentically yourself, as you just shared your story, and now this just literally comes full circle. So I know this probably must have been like, oh my gosh, wow, I cannot believe this. And in fact, you're still telling yourself, wow, with the amount of conventions and now everyone's starting to, I mean, getting to know, your stuff, your work outside of voice acting, and you also have your YouTube channel as well that you kind of do from time to time, but it's kind of like that just really got your, if not your foot in the door, it definitely got, you know, it was kind of like the big game changer for you, if
Yeah.
all things considered.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, totally. You know, to to have my second job be such a beloved franchise with such a dedicated, passionate, wonderful community of fans around it is it's huge. I mean, my early acting jobs could be like a bubblegum commercial, or like a short film, or so, something that like doesn't really garner much attention, but it's just, hey, this is experience, this is work. But to have something so early on be this incredibly well-written story that means so much to so many people, and to get to portray an LGBTQ plus character, and particularly a transgender character, because that's still groundbreaking. Like, we really, I can't even think of, I can think of extremely few transgender characters in cartoons. I mean, it's really still brand new to mainstream media. So yeah, no, absolutely. It's huge. I mean, it's definitely gotten me attention that I wouldn't have had without it, and has changed my life, quite frankly.
Ah. And with a lot that has been going on, like, especially now where we're kind of at an age where there's like more of a representation, we're just seeing a lot more of this change when it comes to having characters that are being played by actors that are more, that would be more suited for this character. It's not just with oh, like, do their voice fit the character, but it's more like, no, it is a character that emotionally it resonates with an actor because of their own personal experiences. So I'm just really happy that we're kind of starting to see more of this push of like, yeah, I think that these actors should be I mean, I'm all for giving everyone a fair chance, but it's more like for years there's been a lot of jobs that are just not really openly available for actors that for one reason or another, it could be because they're not in an area. Like a lot of this stuff is recorded in Los Angeles or Texas or so on and so forth. But now with remote recording, there's also this push. We're getting a lot of actors that are just really getting their making their big moments, like when it comes to anime or video games, and it's all being done remotely.
Yeah,
Actors that are disabled or LGBT, we want to get a lot of this stuff. Like if you ask me, like at least even a decade or 2 decades ago, I don't think a lot of this remote recording with how voiceover has just kind of grew exponentially with everybody doing it from home. I mean, I kind of do technically miss the old days where everyone would just be in a studio and just record on their own
right.
time, of like
Yeah.
being in the same room. But it's like, man, the amount of progress that I've been seeing these last few years, man, my.
Oh, it's
I
it's
could go
amazing.
I could just go on about this all day long if I have to, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing. That's all I can
It
say.
it's a big step to really there's it's become a pretty firm standard, I would say now, to have underrepresented characters and identities portrayed by people who can authentically represent that historically very miss or underrepresented um, um, culture or identity, whatever it is. And the Dragon Prince is no exception. I mean, I just think that that team cares so deeply about that, and they prove it time and time again. They really put in the time and effort to do things the right way and to do things with respect. And I said it on Twitter a couple times too, but for those who have seen season 6, there's a scene where Astrid, she doesn't explicitly talk about being transgender, but it's in within the context of the scene, it is kind of her moment where it's brought to the viewer's attention, and in one specific line. And when I recorded that line, I remember Aaron Ehasz, creator of the show, he asked me if I had any thoughts or notes on the way it was written, and if I, wanted to try something different or whatever. And I thought it was already beautifully written and it was perfect. So I had no notes. But just the fact that he, as creator of the show, to take time in that session to say, hey, Boone, we have you here and we value your opinion and your insight specifically. And this is a very significant moment, and it goes beyond just the show, but LGBTQ plus rights. He didn't say all of these things, but I'm just saying the subtext of it was like, this is significant, and this is a perspective that you have, and we value that and want to honor it. And here's the floor is yours. And that just it's a testament to how much that team cares. And I'm so grateful for that.
It's so cool of just having an actor have their own input because that's something that is like completely rare, by the way.
It
But
is,
when
yeah,
somebody,
it's pretty rare.
yeah, when a showrunner asks you, like, okay, we wanted to know how do you feel about this, but that's something that is just so rare because it's usually like you go into a writer's room and then they toss around ideas and then the actors come in and then they add lib or improv or anything, but just a key pivotal like moment, like just to offer like a suggestion as to like, oh, like how would you want to portray a scene entirely, like changing it up completely. But yeah, it's just so rare to get to do that. It really
It is.
is.
It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very rare. And I know, but they do that. I know that Ben, who plays Terry on the show, had a lot of input into that character. Like they've had some like meetings with some of the actors. I think Jesse told me something similar about even just, it's not a transgender character, but playing Soren, and like they really value the actor. They care about who they cast, and they you can tell there's a lot of thought and a lot of heart put into who's playing which character, and how the I think as the show goes on too, you get to see how they start to write for their actors a little bit more, and there is this like soul connection that I think a lot of us feel with the characters we get to play, and it's fabulous.
Exactly. Man, and it's just like I'm looking at your Twitter and I just keep seeing the banner for San Diego Comic-Con with the panel that you were on. So I guess we might as well just talk about the Comic-Con that you just went to
Yeah.
since it just wrapped up last weekend. Man, I can't
Yeah.
believe it's been a week already. crap.
I know it's been a roller coaster. It's been wild. Like I said at the beginning, my parents were visiting, so it's just been nonstop doing stuff. But oh my gosh, yeah, Comic-Con was incredible. The fact that I just I'm in disbelief that I got to be there last year still, and now I've had two experiences. Like the fact that they put me on the panel last year was just I'm incredibly lucky. I mean, Astrid was revealed at that panel as a sneak peek. No one knew who the heck she was. Season 6 was far away in the distance. Season 5 was just coming out then. They were there to promote season 5. So that was so wild and so much fun. And then to come back this year and then have the screening where we got to all watch season 6 in one room together. And that was my first time seeing it. I didn't watch anything in advance. It was all my first live reaction to it with a room full of fans of the show and people who make the show. It was it was so I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. And to get to share it with my parents was so meaningful to me. And then to be on the panel, uh, it was it was wonderful. I couldn't I was so shocked anytime someone came up to me to ask me to sign something or to take a picture. I was like yesterday I was no one, and now suddenly people want my name on a poster. Like, I couldn't believe it. Honestly, there's a sense of like, what? Who am I? This is crazy. Um, but it meant so much to me, and you could just feel the love in that room, that giant ballroom of passion and excitement, and it's all wrapped around this incredible story that we all care so much about from each of our own perspective. It's just such a magical community that's been created around this world and this story, and getting to be a part of it and be on that stage with such talented people that I look up to personally and get to sit on their level and share that moment with them. It was one of the greatest honors of my life, honestly.
I'm just getting like, right as you were talking, I'm just kind of like getting like these really, it's kind of like when you go to a convention and you see someone that you grew up watching, whether it's an artist, an actor, just somebody that you really have such a deep like you have so much respect for.
Mhm.
And when you actually see them in person, it's just kind of like, man, this is why going to these events can be really magical because you see so many, man, just a lot of people just dressing up in cosplay, so many artists that are just really dedicated, and a lot of business industry professionals that are some of the most down to earth, humble, and downright sweetest people that you can. Now, I
Yeah.
know that there are exceptions. Trust me, there's a few. Not I'm not going to get into it for today, but most of the time, it's just a lot of industry pros that are just so, and it all ties back to what you were saying. Treat yourself like you're more experienced because you mentioned that you were still very green, which I did not even know that was like your second booking. Like, and
Yeah.
already it's just kind of, it is insane how you were on the Comic Con panel last year, and I think just earlier this year you were at WonderCon, which I
I
sadly
was,
also
yeah.
missed, and now SDCC this year. It's now that season 6 is out. It's man, like the amount of time that I'm just even thinking about it because I cannot believe that it's still is tripping me up that we've been talking for like a year before we actually started doing
I
this.
know,
But
it's crazy.
yeah, but you know what? Like I said, completely worth it in the end. And now that season 6 is out, this gives us a lot of stuff to really talk about when it comes to the show. And like getting to, like I said, being a part of this and then just looking at, it's led you to Comic Con, like doing a lot of these conventions now is just absolutely insane. So for the Dragon Prince itself, what would you say was like kind of like your aha moment when you were recording for Astrid, or just getting to work on the show in general? What was kind of like your big, like, I guess, particularly, it could just be anything that happens in the show, just getting to be in the booth, or just what was kind of like the moment where you're just kind of like, wow, I cannot believe I'm actually doing this. Like you've watched Dragon Prince and now you're getting to be a part of it, but what was one moment that you specifically recall from the show that you're just like, this is why I love doing this each and every single day for a living. I just really love doing this. Of just being like, wow,
It's
you're just
all of
pinching
it.
yourself even. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was. I'm trying like from the moment I stepped in, it was just wild. There was like
Yeah.
just seeing the script on a mic on a music stand in front of me, seeing the Dragon Prince, book 6 stars, seeing the character I play name on the page. All of it was surreal. I remember the moment that like I feel like it really came alive for me, and I felt like I fully stepped into Astrid and got to um I don't want to say take ownership because it's not my character. I didn't create her, but there's a sense of like this is me. I'm putting my stamp onto this. It was a scene where Astrid and Cosmo have an argument in this alternate timeline, and it's like there was something very cathartic about getting to yell at Cosmo a little bit and be angry with him because we at that point, Ethan and I had the chance to play off of each other a little bit, and everything started to just feel more organic and more natural. And that scene, I felt just went so smoothly. Like it just was so, we had really built this sibling dynamic, where it was very rewarding to get to go and just be in that moment. That I really lost myself in that scene, and I felt like I was just in the world of the Dragon Prince, in the Star Scraper, in that moment, in the story. And that was what kind of made it all feel real, I would say.
Yeah. And what would you say was the biggest um like parallel that you have with Astrid? What do you see yourself the most with this role, the character?
I I think she really stands up for what she believes in. I think that Astrid she knows what she feels is right, and she will not stray away from that. She also loves her brother a lot, which I I love that is part of their relationship because I have 3 older brothers myself, and we all get along very well. I'm very close with my brothers. So to get to play that familial aspect felt it resonated with me pretty deeply. But I think that her confidence, it's like I mean, I like many people struggle with confidence, and I have self consciousness and
Yeah.
issues around that all the time. But I think that as a kid, I was very, very confident in myself and had zero inhibitions at all. And some of that has carried over. I think a lot of it has been relearned through transitioning because once I went through that first nasty puberty, it's like, okay, this is horrible. Now I don't feel like myself, and I'm getting so socially anxious now. And it felt like a lot of my identity was being peeled away through that. And then as I transition, it's like I've always said it's kind of felt like a journey to go back and find who I was when I was 9 years old. Because that's when I felt most myself, most authentically me, and without any hindrance attached to it. Like just I could be myself 100% without inhibitions or fears about how that would come across. I just knew who I was. And I really feel like playing Astrid in a way was getting to revisit my 9-year-old self. She's like if you took 9-year-old Boone and you made her into an elf and you made her an adult, that is like that's who Astrid kind of was to me. So I feel like she's just sort of my childlike spirit, essence put into a cartoon character, if that makes any sense at all.
It does. It does. Man, there's just so much more to discuss when it comes to Dragon Prince, but honestly, I would just say y'all probably watch the show just to get the full experience. I mean, like, we're just kind of talking about, our, input on why Astrid is such a great character, but, you should definitely watch the show yourself just to, I mean, I'm just saying.
Yes. Watch it, everyone. Stream it. Stream it. Tell them,
Stream it on
tell Netflix you want
Netflix.
more. We want more. We want more.
We want more.
Yes. Yes.
We want fair rights.
Yes.
Don't clone us, please.
Yeah, that's also true.
Yeah. Oh boy, I can. Yeah, but I know in the future it's definitely going to be like, oh boy. So actually, before I get to that other question, like, does it, I don't know if you kind of feel this way, but does it still feel kind of surreal when you listen to your own voice coming out of a character like Astrid, or just hearing your own voice in anything?
Yeah, it definitely the first time I was it's funny because they played I got to hear some of the lines back before it was animated. I just got to hear them in the studio at one point, and I thought to myself, is that me? It actually took me at least 5 seconds, like a couple lines to go, oh wait, that's me. I was waiting for my voice because I knew they were
Yeah.
about to play some of my lines back. And I'm like, I thought it was just another part of the show that I was listening to. I'm like, oh wait, that's me. So that was very odd. And then I heard it again with the animation, I guess a week ago today at the screening. And that was even more odd. I was like, what?
There's kind of like this weird
I'm like, that
whiplash
doesn't,
that you got.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, this doesn't sound like how it sounded last time. So, I've always had a lot of vocal dysphoria, and in terms of like gender dysphoria, that's evolved over time and gotten easier, and it goes back and forth. But so I have a weird and long and complicated relationship with hearing my own voice. So the first time I got to see it animated, honestly, I was hypercritical. I was just like, okay, Boone, I don't know about your acting here. I don't know. Or like, you sound a little bit more
Uh,
masculine than
the
I thought you
the
did. I was very
the
critical of both the
the
physical.
inner
Yeah,
critics.
we all have it, right? So I was feeling very critical of the physical quality of my voice and my acting chops in that moment. And I honestly, I like my parents were sitting next to me and they could tell something was up. I'm like, I just needed a
Oh
moment. But
no.
then I watched it later. I watched it later. I don't know if it was that same day or the next day or whatever, but I went back and I have been able to kind of see it through a different lens and or hear it through a different lens, I suppose. Since then, and I'm proud of the work that I did, and I really like Astrid as a character, and I've been able to sort of I hear it and I'm like, yeah, that is me. That is my voice. I do sound like that. But also I recognize it as part of Astrid. It feels like hearing my own voice and also hearing something totally foreign at the same time. It's hard to explain, but
Yeah.
it was very weird at first to answer your question, and now it feels pretty normal. It was like I went on a little spiritual journey and I have found myself back on solid ground, and now it's just fun. Now I just love it.
Yeah. And I know it's gonna be a trip when people start cosplaying as the character that you've won, and
Oh
just
God.
seeing more of this merch. So I can't really tell what the future is gonna be, but I can kind of tell there's gonna be a lot of, stuff that's gonna be coming out. Like a lot more of a fan base because that's pretty much what happens when you voice a character that starts getting a following where there's going to be a lot of like you know comics or merchandise plush toy just anything, and that's pretty much what I was talking with Mealy Grant, like it was like a
Oh
year
yeah.
ago. It was just kind of like, yeah, they just pretty much said the same thing where it's like the character that they voice in like this video game that they did, and lo and behold, it just kind of turned into like this big. There's a fan base for the character, and then there's also going to be a lot of people that are going to be vocal about it. But yeah, I mean, there are going to be, you know, when it comes to critics and everything, you just don't really know what you're going to be expecting. But at the end of the day, the positive interaction and just the overall reception to it is just kind of like, it just still blows you away.
Oh
Apex
yeah.
Legends, that was it. Yeah,
Right. Yes.
Cataways. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they were in Apex. So it was just kind of like it's kind of similar that happened with them too. So it's so weird. It really does feel like a big whiplash moment, but then it just kind of started becoming normal, which is like, okay, wow, that's it's pretty cool. So, and it's also really great that I'm also getting to do that I'm just doing another interview with another trans actor, which is or actress, but it's just kind of really interesting because I don't really do a lot of these because I don't know, for some reason I just like to do more. I want to branch out and focus more on topics that are just how is acting like from your perspective? Because I haven't really done many interviews where I just kind of discuss like, your having your personality and just infusing it into a role like, like with Mealy, yourself, JB Carliac, if I can chat with them. I don't know.
Yeah. Love
Maybe in the
JP.
future, fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
I'd love
Yeah,
to see
but
that.
yeah, so it's just really interesting just to hear from everybody else's perspectives. But yeah, looking forward to the future when it comes to those Astrid cosplays. That's gonna be pretty dope.
I would love to see that. I would love to see an Astrid cosplay. I think I've
Yeah.
they showed me a picture of her at my very first session and I thought she looked so cool. I think the celestial elves, their robes, their hair, the blindfolds, everything about them, they have such a cool, unique look. So first person I see doing an Astrid cosplay, I'm gonna give you the biggest high five ever, whether it's an actual physical high five or just a virtual one. You heard it here.
Yep, you heard it here, folks. You heard it here. Yeah, I mean, it's like with a lot of indie stuff. I mean, we were talking about Amazing Digital Circus and what else? The Vivsy Pop stuff and like a lot of internet animations have also kind of gone on. Like,
Oh yeah.
it got to the point where there's even a musical on Amazing Digital Circus that I found out recently. So that is just pretty, yeah, dedication, man, dedication.
People
So.
people are
Yeah.
doing it. People out there doing
They're
it.
doing it, yeah. So I do want to talk a little bit about being doing stand up just for a little bit, because
Sure.
I don't know how much more time we got. But yeah, tell us about being a comedian.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a wild thing. I knew when I moved to LA. So I moved to LA April of 2023, so April of last year. I haven't been here too long.
Oh,
And I
okay,
knew,
yeah.
yeah, it's pretty new. And I knew that I wanted to try stand up when I moved because I don't know, I'd always been curious about it. And I'm like, well, LA seems like the place to give it a go. And I went to my first open mic and had fun. I didn't do terribly. I was like, okay, and I had no material. I didn't even write anything. I'm just like I'm just going to go up and wing it because for me that was less scary than actually trying my best to write something. That terrified me more
Yeah.
than just not knowing what was going on. I'm like, I don't care. Maybe I'll be terrible, but whatever. And I kind of it's addictive. It's one of those things being on stage with a microphone and not knowing what's going to happen. There's a live audience and you're kind of playing off them. There's a thrill to it that is quite frankly addictive. So I kept doing it. I haven't been doing stand up as much this year. I've kind of taken a step back for some personal reasons. But it's not, there's nothing definitive. I haven't quit. I still do it when I feel like it, but I haven't been letting myself get booked for too many any shows because I don't want to commit to things that I might not be able to do. But it's been a really, really fun way also to explore my, identity as a trans woman because all of my most successful jokes and material have come from that. I think that it's still to many people a really unique concept. Like it kind of surprises me because I'm in my own world where I know so much about trans issues and it's that's my perspective, but then I go out into the world and I realize most people don't have that. And so getting to try and be creative and come up with humor that write trans jokes that are not putting trans people down but actually educating people. It feels like a great way to hopefully get people on a better page with trans issues and start to empathize more while also just making people laugh and give me a sense of self-confidence to be able to be to get on stage and be vulnerable and candid and then create some entertainment out of it. it's been really big for me in my personal life. I don't know how far my comedy will go professionally. Like it's just more so for fun right now, but it's led to things that I never would have expected. And it's I've gotten to do some fun shows because of it and got attention that I wouldn't have anticipated. And I don't know, I'm just open to see whatever happens next.
Yeah, right on. And who knows what it's gonna bring in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you got reps from USA, Canada, so I know there's gonna be more opportunities coming soon. Never
Well,
know.
thank you. I hope so. I hope so. Thank you. We'll see.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you did mention Charlie Adler before.
Mm,
That's somebody, yeah. When it comes to big name voice actors, he is definitely right. He's like up there, man. You know, he's been at this for so long. Classes are really hard to get into because they
yeah.
sell out like quickly, and they're also really
They are worth
expensive.
it. I will say that to everyone.
Yeah.
If these are my last couple minutes here, I'm gonna spend them saying this. If you're an actor, you want to improve at your craft, even if you don't do animation, take Charlie's class if you can. It is worth every penny. It changed my life. It genuinely, I don't think I'd be doing this interview right now if I didn't take that class. He is a phenomenal teacher and a phenomenal human being, and you will get something out of it, whether it's professional, personal, most likely both. I guarantee that it will be meaningful, and take the class.
Yep. Right on. Right on. Well, I guess we'll just wrap it up. We'll just give our closing thoughts in the final part for realsy. So, if you're watching this and you stuck around for this long, congrats.
Yes,
And I
thank you,
guess I'll
everyone.
see you in the closing,
All
in the
right.
ending. So,
Part
see you in a
three.
bit. Here we are with the finale. So, I guess we kind of discussed pretty much everything that we could possibly discuss for right now. Will we do a second part? Another long, maybe hour, 2 hour long podcast? We'll see in the future, but until then, I guess you could just probably share just a little bit about, because I know with everything that's been happening right now, what has been something that has kind of been, sort of that you're kind of dabbling into, any new hobbies that you're partaking in, because I know you've done the comedian and just everything else,
Mhm.
but what is something that you're also doing alongside, you're juggling alongside, acting, doing all this other stuff?
Yeah, well, I do kind of want to maybe get back into doing the podcast, or even just doing YouTube videos again, because I like
Yeah.
anything that I can self-produce is so wonderful, because as an actor, many people will know you can easily fall into a place of, oh, I'm just waiting for somebody to give me permission to go do what I love to do. And it's,
Mhm.
it's brutal. You can't really live your life that way. So I want to do that, but right now I've been writing a little bit, not necessarily anything that'll ever see the light of day, but I've just, I'm writing kind of a little memoir about different key moments in my life, and not explicitly 100% necessarily dedicated to the transgender parts of that, but definitely with a
Yeah.
theme there and how that's impacted my life. And yeah, I'm just trying to experiment with writing, because I started to do it to write material for my stand up, and I'm not doing stand up as much right now, but I really found that I love writing, and I've kind of getting in touch with my inner 5-year-old again, who would make movies on my dad's video camera with my brothers. And so yeah, I'm just exploring that, but it's nothing, no, it's not really any hobbies that are being put out into the public, but we'll see where that goes. And I don't know.
Yeah, we shall see. And how do you juggle everything?
Mm.
That's the trick question.
I you know right now it's actually been fairly chill. The Comic-Con was a
That's
lot.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Comic-Con was a lot. I did have a lot going on that weekend, and so a lot. I just find in my life there's this repeated pattern. I'm sure plenty of people can relate to this, where it's like nothing goes on and I'm bored and I'm like, why isn't anything happening? and that can go on for however long, and then everything happens in one day or in one week. It's like, okay, now there's this and this and this you got to do, and there's this audition, and there's this whatever, and it's happening the day you're flying home to visit your parents or whatever. And so I had a little bit of that recently, and I always try to stay prepared for when that's going to happen next. But I try to enjoy the downtime, and use it, take advantage of it so that I can try my hand at writing stories, journaling, whatever, writing jokes, even if I'm not performing them, just for fun. And then watching TV, just relaxing. I think you gotta, if you're someone who's struggling to balance a lot, if you have a lot on your plate, I always think make one of the things on your plate something that's just for your utter enjoyment, like watching your favorite show or making your favorite dinner or whatever, make that just as important as your professional responsibilities or whatever it is you need to do as an adult in this crazy world. Um, Find things that keep you grounded like that. I'm lucky. I love where I live. I walk out in nature all the time and listen to music, and I talk to my mom every day. I call my mom every day. I love my mom. We're super close, and I feel like so long as I have her to check in with, it's like no matter what's going on in my life, everything's gonna be okay.
Amen to that. So, yeah, I mean, we've kind of discussed like so many different challenges and the struggles of working full time, as an actress, especially with the momentum, because you've kind of discussed it beautifully, because there's going to be weeks where you're just kind of like running a million miles a second, and then the next thing you know, it's just like a week of just crickets chirping.
Yeah,
So
totally.
it's just kind of like, I'm so bored. Why isn't anything happening? So that's kind of like one of the biggest reasons. But honestly, I've kind of delved on this topic in previous interviews where we just discussed like, oh, the challenges of working as a full-time actor or actress. But it's, yeah, it's just, I think Bob Bergen said it best. It's like he worked very hard to get to where he is right now, because getting into the industry is hard, but keeping the momentum and staying in it is even harder. That's when I think I've watched this brilliant interview with, it wasn't with Bob, but it was Richard Horvitz, where I think he said something along the lines of, the greater the determination, the harder the obstacles. And that could not be any more true, man. Because when you really want something so badly, the obstacles that you're going to be facing is going to like multiply tenfold. You just never
Totally.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, Richard Horvitz has a lot of wisdom. That definitely sounds like a Richard Horvitz line. So,
No, it's like that's why I said I was saying play pretend earlier, because
right.
yeah, that is definitely something that I kind of borrow from him.
Oh yeah, no, me too. Me too. I heard him his talk about his perspective on acting that way when I was probably 12, like you were talking about at the beginning of the interview, and that was something that I always
Yeah.
in my back pocket.
Like you're in your sandbox, and I know that Steve
Mhm.
Bloom also did a really good analogy of like having your little sandbox, and then you're just on the playground. You don't really think about, okay, how should this baby sound? How would I sound as
Yeah,
like, we don't care about any of that. But then when you become an
totally.
adult,
Yeah, the adult brain is a little different than the child brain, and
I
you
guess it's
start
like, I am
analyzing.
Lex Luthor, and then it's kind of like, R.
Right. Yeah.
See there? See what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
See, like, even if you're listening to me right now, I could not pull off the deep Lex Luthor voice, but it's
Nor
like,
could I.
yeah, that's why we have actors like, maybe Crispin could do it, or maybe Travis Williams,
Right.
Clancy Brown.
Yeah, oh yes,
That's why,
absolutely.
yeah. But it doesn't mean that we can't use it for a toolbox. You just never know. That's why there's always room to just explore, because you mentioned it took you years to really find your normal voice, and it just takes a
Hmm.
long time for people to work with what you can do. It's not really so much about the voices, it's about the storytelling, like growing as storytellers and the
Absolutely.
character. And then that the story comes first, and then you have the character, the world building. And then that's when you get into like the mindset, just getting into all of that stuff. can you tell that I'm also kind of been trained with like Meisner, had a
Right.
background in Meisner, so that's kind of like
Yep.
I've had coaches that are just more like, okay, you're kind of focusing too much on how the character sounds. Focus on the attitude and the relationship of the character and the world that you're in. What is happening in a scene? What is something, and we're kind of talking audition etiquettes. What is something that a character is doing that's gonna have it be like, oh, okay, that pops. Because I do workouts with Skills Up, which is a great
Oh
resource.
yeah.
Just like a lot of great stuff about, you know, what it means, what resources to get started, and that's a really good one where we do workouts. And I'm just kind of like, okay, I want to try this though. What is because so many actors are going to do the same thing. What is something that I could do? What is something that the character is doing that is going to really make the that I just want to add a little bit of juiciness to it. That's kind of like my perspective. It's like when I look at something, I'm just like, okay, I think, and also going back to Crispin, it's this interview that he did where he's like, I am enough because I'm a human being. Your voice is enough. Because
Yes.
when actors, we all have the tendency of being like, I'm just gonna get expressive and but
Right.
it's not even like that. Where it's just like, I'm just gonna project to like a billion people back in the row because I mean that's where the stage experience comes from, but it's more like, no, just you're pouring too much of the sauce onto a steak, but
Yeah.
it's just you bring you in a role and what you can make the character come to life. And that was something that going back to Astrid, it's like you offer your own unique personality and experience, and you just brought that to Astrid, and that's what really made the character seem so strong and connect to so many different people, and certainly resonated to yourself, like you were saying earlier. So I'm just saying examples like that as to rather so not so subtly tie back into Astrid. Gotta get
Well, thank you. Thank you very
yeah.
much for that. Yeah, it's and she was a character where it was easier to do that because it felt like she was already written in such a way that it was very accessible because I could relate to her. But that is I think the goal for any actor is just to be able to see yourself in a character. And even if the character is so utterly different from you, it's you. I'm sure I'm stealing this line from someone, but you are the secret ingredient. It's you, and
Oh
you're
yeah,
putting
yeah.
yourself in those shoes. We're not, you know, I'm not a giant demonic ruler of some sort of fantasy world, but I could be. I could be in another universe. So if the audition calls for that, it's just having a willingness to be, well, I'm not becoming something outside of myself. I'm still me, but I'm in this role now that I'm not maybe in this
Mhm.
in this reality right here. That's not what I'm facing, but
Exactly.
we're stepping into it and just being able to jump in and play.
Exactly. Yeah. There was something that I was also going to add to that, where it's like, this is why we love playing pretending. And we kind of go back to what happens, why at a specific point in our lives where we're just like, okay, yeah, so we're playing pretending. We're just playing. We do voices all the time and we don't even realize it, even
Yeah,
during this interview, for instance. So
absolutely.
yeah, like I said, or your body posture, where I'm just taking something from Bob Bergen that he learned from Dawes Butler, where basically portraying the character the voice is going to follow. So any
Absolutely.
small gesture, like if I play the little gremlin, if I stick my nose up like this, then
Right.
it's just
Yeah.
yeah. So it just becomes a different character. But if I do it like this, it's just not gonna have the same impact as this. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
exactly, that's just an example.
Physicality's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then your neck is kind of, yeah, I'm all about the physicality. Alexander technique. That's something I learned from
Yeah.
Aaron Fitzgerald. So I'm just
You're
name
well
dropping
studied.
everybody
You're
at
very well
this.
studied. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Or sometimes I could just kind of just say, you know what, forget it. I'm just gonna do whatever is funny to me. I think
That's
that's something
great.
that a lot of actors are just kind of do where it's like, what if I just play this character, but it's just kind of like Eddie Murphy, but he's just totally just on something. And
Yeah.
that's exactly how I got a part.
Why
I'm not
not?
even kidding.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's amazing. No, that is how it works. The job I got was I had like no time to do it. It was an I almost it
That's
was
how it
I
be most of the time. I kid
yeah.
you not. or
right?
just procrastinating until the last second. Oops.
Whatever happens,
Don't
right?
follow
But
my,
no, I
but
was in
in
a
all
huge
seriousness, don't
rush.
follow my lead,
I
guys.
was
Yeah.
um yeah, well, it happens though.
Yeah.
I was in a huge rush to do an audition once, and
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was terrible because I wasn't even thinking, so I was just doing whatever made worked for me. I'm like, this is kind of fun, whatever. Sent it off, didn't think about it. 6 months later,
Just,
I got the part. 6 months later, I found out. So
oh my
you never know.
gosh.
Always do one for yourself. Always do a take that's just for
Yeah.
you. You
Mm-hmm.
never know where it's gonna get you.
Dude, yeah, I think that's what happened to me because it was like, I think it was 2 weeks left into the deadline, and I was just kind of like, okay, I'm just obviously not doing it. Let me just do a take that's funny to me, and then sure enough, deadline passes, and I get a notice being like, congrats, you got this Eddie Murphy. I don't even know what I did. I think it was Chris Tucker, Eddie Murphy, one
Oh
of the
my gosh,
two. That I
that's
was
so
just kind of
funny.
doing like, what I was like, wouldn't it be funny if these guys just kind of were like on, I don't know if I could say it, steroids or something. And
Yeah.
that's literally how I got the part. I was just like, I don't know what I was doing. I just submitted it. And then sure enough, I got the part. And I'm just like, okay, why not? Sure.
Because you were in it, right? You were
Yeah.
so in it in that moment. You were dedicated to it. You were doing
Yeah.
something that
No,
compelled
it
you.
wasn't even like full on dedication. I was just kind of like doing it just for the giggles. So
Well, it
I was
worked.
just kind of
Whatever
doing
worked.
like, blah, 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 blah. And then sure enough, then I guess that's how history was made.
Yeah, it paid off, clearly.
It really, really did. Huh. Yeah. Yeah, now I'm just kind of going, my mind is just going a million miles a second. So
I
I
get
guess
that.
yeah. Yeah, we were just talking about everything from agents, just getting your start. And yeah, oh yeah, that's it. So with the current strikes, I mean, it's hard to know exactly how the turnout is going to be, but you being a part of SAG yourself, like what has been, with these ongoing strikes, like, what is your perspective on, this whole issue that's been concerning regarding the AI, if you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Yeah. What is your
Yeah.
2 cents?
I'm not gonna
Just being a working actor.
Yeah, I'm not gonna pretend to know more than I do because
Exactly. Yeah.
there's people who work in
There's
video games all the
so
time who
much.
are
Yeah.
way more well read on the specifics. So my familiarity
Yeah.
has limitations. It's a vague
Yeah. I
awareness.
will say,
I'm
Jennifer Hale is also another great one, too, because
Oh yeah,
she is very much an advocate for this stuff. Go on her Instagram. She does videos like that as well. So just want to put that
absolutely.
out there. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a fellow Canadian as well. I love Jennifer Hale.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she's also on the Dragon Prince. She plays Domina Profundus, the
Hey.
archdragon of the ocean.
There you
Um,
go. There we
yeah.
go.
So, but yeah, no, so I'm not as familiar as people like her are who work in video games all the time.
Yeah,
All I know is that we're taking really important precautionary steps as a union so that we don't get into murky waters later where we could really the rights of our own voices are what are at risk right now, and that's huge. So I guess I would just say, because I can't get too into the specifics, but I would say if you want to stay informed, go straight to SAG-AFTRA, because there are a lot of people disseminating accurate information and doing so really efficiently, but there's also, it can be a game of telephone, and sometimes you're going to get mixed messaging and misinformation. So SAG-AFTRA's website is going to have all the information that you want to know if you're an actor or if it's affecting you in some way. But I know the strike is really important, and it's a pivotal moment right now. It's a really uncertain time in the industry. We don't know how this new technology is going to affect job security, and that's why it's happening. And I stand in solidarity with all my other SAG-AFTRA actors. I'm a proud member of the union, and I just hope we find a way forward that leaves game developers happy, leaves actors happy and able to continue to make a living for themselves, and that everything's able to move forward positively and productively.
exactly. I don't really have much to say myself as I am, still not union, but I'm just on the outside looking in, but I know for a fact. I also did a video on this not too long ago where I was kind of talking about why it's so important to be informed and support the strike and why using our voices to clone for AI is not really it's not a feasible way. Like I know for and I know this is probably going to step on toes, but for companies that are using our voices as a way to, save production costs or just not want to hire us for, doing the work, like, I mean, look, as a business, we don't really control like everything that we because like you might be a part of, Dragon Prince, but you're not Netflix, but we don't control like who gets the final say on like say if you're making a casting decision, right? And we don't really have a say on if something is going to be used for AI, but we can advocate on like, hey, like we don't agree with this, especially if you don't have our consent or permission to do any of this. And that is especially going to be because, say, what if it's used for like, what exactly are you going to be using it for? They're not really specific. Like, it's used for like a political or NSFW,
Yeah.
it's something that's going to hurt our brand as actors because going back to the business aspect, we are a business and we treat it as such. Like if you're on social media, like you're using it, like I don't really use it for, hey, let's do just a chat or anything like I used to when I was younger, but that's because I wasn't really into VO. But now having a social media presence, it's like you don't really need social media. There's kind of like a little thing that I could go off about that, but if you really wanted to grow, like getting your name out there and really grow your brand. That's where Twitter, Facebook, or whatever comes in. But this is something that can really hurt you. Like if a potential buyer or a client is looking at this and they're like, oh, wait a minute, what are they saying about this? And it's like, no, I did not agree to this. There's lawsuits. The
Yeah.
people don't think about the lawsuits that are going to be coming to their way. So, yeah, that's kind of on them for using artificial intelligence instead of a person that can do a job better. And I've listened to a lot of the AI stuff, and it is yikes. So, that's why we are doing in a strike because we have to negotiate, we have to be on the same page here, because we don't want and I know we've gotten comments of like, oh, you're just being greedy. No, it's about protecting, it's about standing up for what's right, like you were talking about earlier. It's about standing up for what's right and not to screw over actors that are just getting started or just scaring them away from the business, from the industry. Because I am very, 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 very much am very passionate about, what it is, why we support stuff like this and why we must advocate for our healths as well. And I'm also very much an advocate for, because when the Black Lives Matter happened, it's just like this is an ongoing issue that's been going on for years
Oh, yeah.
and I'm not going to go too much into that because there's others that are way more inverse with this than I mean like look, I might be African American myself, but even there's like a lot of stuff that I don't really know entirely, but I am at a place where I can just speak like, listen, look, racism, bigotry, or just discrimination is wrong, period. And feel free to disagree with me if you like, but this is take it with a grain of salt, but I'm not gonna back away from what I personally believe is right. If it means, losing jobs or anything like that, then so be it. But I'm not gonna give away my like especially when it comes to my beliefs as say I'm a Christian, you know what I'm saying? And if I'm gonna
Yeah.
read something that is like full on that ridicules or mocks God, I'm not gonna do it because that's just not I don't want to jeopardize my own personal beliefs or my relationships with Christ or just my beliefs in a situation or a social or an issue that is still ongoing to this very day. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to do that. And that is
Absolutely.
my soapbox moment.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's an important lesson for people, especially if there are people listening who are new in the industry. As if you're in an actor or a performer, it's easy to get taken advantage of, and it's easy to say yes
Yeah.
to things that in the long
Yeah.
run will hurt you, and to say yes just out of the short term promise of what it would look like right now and the excitement of it, and it's easy to get lost in the flair and the shine. So yeah, I always read your contracts. If anything seems shady, get a second opinion. Remind yourself what's really important to you, and what's permanent and what's temporary, because these are things that really matter. So
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's pretty much my piece of what I have to say on the matter.
yeah, well said.
Yeah, yeah, very well said. Whew, that took a lot. Yeah, I didn't realize that this was something that has been, you know what? If there's something you gotta say, just pour your heart out. That's exactly what I did, because
Yeah,
it's been building up for a while, man. Let me tell you.
it's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad you did.
So I guess to also conclude with like your move to LA, because you did mention you just moved here like
Yeah,
April
a
of
little
last
over a
year.
year ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So would you say that that was also very much a huge transitional point in your
Oh
life where
yeah.
you're just kind of like, oh yeah, because you're definitely going into the big leagues now, like
hmm
the big boys of Hollywood. So that was kind of like something that really helped you out
Of
immensely in the long
course.
run. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's been a life goal of mine to live in LA even before I was 100% sure that acting was going to be my profession. I've always wanted to live here for so many different reasons, largely because of the entertainment industry, also because of the climate. I love the LA weather. And I
It
love
is
that
hot. Yeah.
it's pretty here. I like it, and I love
We're
that it's
scorching,
but
we're burning, we're
it's a
dying from
little
the
rough.
heat.
Yeah, this
This
summer
is
is a little
fine.
rough.
I'm smiling. This is
Uh,
fine.
but it's a little tough right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's been huge. I was really lucky to move here, having already had the job on the Dragon Prince. So I had that relationship already with Wonderstorm, and I also already had an agent here in LA for voiceover. So I came here with, you know, not a ton. I still had to figure a lot out as I moved, but I came here knowing that there were people in the industry who supported me, and I had some stuff. So um everything changes though when you get here. My life, it feels like it's been years, honestly. Like it feels like the longest year of my life because so much has happened, and it's been really important for me just to live on my own. I've lived in a small town my entire life with family. So to step into my own and go on this adventure by myself and be forced to figure things out away from all that, away from that comfort zone, has been huge. I think it's been really important for me in my personal life and certainly in my professional life too. And I'm just excited to be around so much passion and dedication to the entertainment industry and the arts. There's such an eclectic community of artistic people in every corner of Los Angeles and the surrounding areas. And, on any given week, I might go see some crazy live show that I've never heard of in my life or meet some really interesting person. And I think as a young person who wants to tell stories, it's just a really cool part of the world to be in, and it's kind of an endless well of inspiration. So I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, that is entirely true. Yeah, there's like it's so and funny how you mentioned it is gonna be like I could just see a crazy live show that I've never seen before. I got that experience with The Lion King when it was here like in California a few months
Oh,
ago.
nice. Yeah.
So, I mean, I was just like, okay, yeah, I guess I haven't really seen like too many live theater shows because I mean, I did when I was a kid, then I kind of fell out of it, but then watching the musical like the on stage, I was just like, okay, yeah. I mean, I would watch a lot of musical theater stuff, but it's not like being in the being there physically, especially up close. Like, oh my gosh. But yeah, it's
True.
just a good
True.
example of like broadening your interests is kind of the
hmm
main lesson that we wanted to give to folks because we can just be like, oh, like if you're getting into acting, what should you study? Well, definitely study improv, definitely study theater, shows. It's so much media out there that is just, I mean, just recently, just watching a lot of shows that came out like recently this decade, I kind of missed out on shows like Owl House,
Yeah, great
what
show.
else? Kipo,
Love
you know,
Kipo.
Dragon Prince. Yeah, there's so much that is out there right now. And let's see, what's this one other show that just came out that's a big. I mean, we already discussed Dragon Prince, but I thought there was something. Yeah, there's so many great shows out there now.
A
And
lot out there.
yeah, and there's a lot, you know, from the 2020s, even shows like from the 2010s. Like there was Adventure Time, regular show, My Little Pony, and going back to the 2000s with Avatar, SpongeBob, you know, and shows like that are just pushing the boundaries of animation and just with creative storytelling, great characters, so much storytelling that has been made in all of these shows. Even going back to the 90s, you know, with Batman, just binging
Oh
Batman the
yeah,
animated series. Still holds up. Rest in peace, Kevin Conroy.
I know.
Yeah, it's just, man. And he was kind of like, and I also found out that, like, even before he unfortunately lost his cancer battle, that he was also a supporter of the LGBT. And I think he was
Mhm.
also, yeah, yeah, he was
Yeah,
also gay. So that was kind of huge, man.
he was a huge inspiration of mine.
Yeah, for Batman. He was
Oh yeah,
when you hear Batman, it's like you immediately think of Mr. Conroy. I mean, he
absolutely.
was kind of irreplaceable. I mean, to
I
me for a
agree.
long time.
I
Yeah.
agree. He very an icon
Nobody
in
like him.
yeah,
Yeah.
really. I mean, I can't say enough about him.
Yeah.
He's been a role model of mine. So yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And Mark Hamill, so many of the actors, like each of them also have their own interpretations of Batman. So I'm just saying that I do enjoy a lot of their performances, but to me, Mr. Conroy is always like my go-to. Same with him
Absolutely.
as Joker. And so much of the
Absolutely.
cast from that show, I think that was, like I mentioned, Andrea Romano, just man,
Oh my
A
gosh.
plus.
She's
If
amazing.
Andrea's the director of the show, you know it's gonna be good.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah. Let me. Oh yeah, I can show you this.
Oh my
See
gosh.
this?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
this is one
do.
of my millions of like posters of WonderCon
It's
comic
amazing.
stuff. Yeah,
Freakazoid, Batman, yeah.
yeah. This is from Tom Ruger. I didn't get an
Oh my
autograph of it,
gosh,
but
that's amazing
yeah,
though. Tom
because
Ruger,
Tom,
that's
yeah,
fantastic.
he worked on the show and he did a few episodes, but many people know him for like Tiny Toons and Animaniacs and recently with the 7Ds for Disney.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, great guy,
Yeah.
great person.
I've
Yeah.
never met him, but I've heard nothing but positives, so
Yeah, I chatted with him on Facebook from time to time. He's really cool.
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
just getting to talk about animation and stuff. So, yeah, think now for real, I think I've pretty much discussed everything that we can discuss. If we do a part two in the future, we'll have even more to talk about when the time comes for it. But I just want to thank you so, so much for being here today. It's been a lot of fun getting to talk with you for 2 hours. My first 2 hour interview in quite a while because they're usually like pretty short. I mentioned these are kind of like 30, 40 minutes at best, but no, there's like so much that we could discuss in like 2 hours. So
It
yeah,
has been so much fun. Thank you so much,
yeah,
Robert, for having me on. This has been a blast. I'm so
exactly.
honored.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is your first, I guess I know you did your podcast, but this is like your first actual interview. Am I
Yeah, I
correct?
think so, unless I'm having a stroke and don't remember something. Yeah, this is, I
Oh,
think, my first one.
man, yeah.
So
Like I
congratulations.
said,
There you
yeah,
go.
congrats for for doing your first podcast
Thank
interview,
you.
really.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
So, what is something else that you want to discuss at this time? What is like any upcoming? I mean, I know a lot of it is under NDA. So, what is something that you can
Right.
disclose right now?
Yeah.
I mean, we've already discussed Dragon Prince for like 2 hours. So, what is something else that you want to discuss at this present moment?
Yeah, everything that I've worked on that'll come out in the future is under NDA. That is true. But I'm pretty on top of social media these days. So
Yeah,
if you
plug your
follow me,
socials.
yeah, if
Yeah,
you want to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, I'm pretty equally active. It's at Boone W Williams on both BoonWilliams. Twitter and Instagram are those are the main places you can find me. I do have a YouTube channel. I haven't done anything for it in forever, but if you look up Boone Williams, you can see there's some stuff mostly about LGBTQ plus stuff and the podcast we were talking about earlier. And then I'm on TikTok too. I don't remember what my TikTok is, honestly, but if you look up Boone Williams, it's probably there and you can see some
I think
stand-up
it's probably
clips
it.
if
Yeah.
you want. And but yeah, Twitter and Instagram, that's where anything like if there's exciting stuff that I'm allowed to talk about, those would be the first places to know. Other than that, yeah, I don't know. Stay tuned and stream season 6 of The Dragon Prince and tell everyone you know to do the same.
Yeah, right on. So let's see, you plugged in your stuff, socials. Oh yeah, any last bit of advice that you wanted to close out
Ooh.
with?
Yeah, specifically to people
Any
who
last
want to do
words?
like acting people,
Pretty
or
much
just in
anything.
general. I
Just general.
okay, just in general.
Yeah.
Do what you find joy in life without concern for where it will lead in the future. I think a lot of
Oh
times
yeah.
we have something that piques our curiosity, but we stray away from it because we don't see a future immediately of what will this provide for us? What will this do down the road? You don't need to have an end goal or end result in mind to pursue something. If something brings you joy or you find curiosity, pursue it. Just do it. Just explore that and see where it might lead. I didn't know that I would do much with stand up, but it ended up being a huge part of finding community and making friends my first year in Los Angeles. And it just came from a random desire to try something new. And I think whether you want to pursue a career in acting or not, that is a good way to go about it. Follow your curiosity, do what brings you joy. I think if you try to chase something very specifically and tell yourself that there's one way you need to go about it in order to achieve that, it's kind of it might actually get in the way. I think that things flow most smoothly when you're open to change and let things kind of just fall out how they need to. Everything's random and ever changing. So do what brings you joy and don't think too hard about it.
Yeah, amen to that. And yeah, just do it, have fun, play pretend, you know, take the wheel and take the mat and just go full speed ahead, I
Yeah.
guess.
Fall down and get up again.
Yeah, fall down many times again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, this was fun. Let's see. I guess just for fun, because I remember you did like a video a while back just showcasing like because you mentioned how it took you a long time to really start finding your voice, but uh, let me see. I think you did a couple of skits where you were doing like Dracula or I don't know, different
Oh yeah,
characters and
I
stuff.
did.
Yeah. I guess just for fun, I guess we could just do that before we wrap this up.
You want me to do my Dracula voice?
I don't know. Yes.
Sure. Everybody, make sure to watch The Dragon Prince on Netflix and drink lots of blood while you do, because it goes very well with the theme of the show. It gets very intense, and there is blood. So if you are a small child, have your parent watch it with you, and just have your blankie and your tissues with you as well.
But
That was
yeah,
fun. Thank you.
yeah, anytime. I don't really have any goodbyes planned, so I guess you could probably do like we could do an outro for this.
Yeah.
If you want. Yeah, we could just say, hi, my name is Boone Williams. I voice da 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 list off what you've done, and this has been Station Square Podcast with Robert Jackson and you know,
Yeah.
like
Okay, sure.
yeah.
All right, here we go. Hi, I'm Boone Williams. I play Astrid on The Dragon Prince, and this has been the Station Squared podcast with Robert Jackson.
Perfect first take. Yeah.
Hey,
We did
professional.
it.
Oh
Professional. And yeah, any last words from, I guess, Astrid, since the show's
yeah.
out now?
Just remember that your star shines brightly, even if others can't see it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we did it 2 hours. So
We did.
if you want to watch this on YouTube or Spotify, definitely feel free to subscribe or what. Man, YouTube mumbo jumbo. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
Smash that like button. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Matt Pat, but
No,
thank you. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, for sure. Thank you for watching, and stick around next time on Station Square. This is Robert and Boone
Boone
and
Williams.
Boone Williams. Woo woo! And I'll see y'all next time. Oh, and knowledge is power, just like it says on my shirt. So,
Beautiful.
boom. There you go. All right, love y'all.